Hello, I'm Anish. I'm an independent artist and I'm here interviewing a professional mastering engineer about his experience. Hello, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Simon, tell me about your mastering experience. How long have you been doing this for?
I've been mastering for 10 years. I've worked with top 100 artists from the US and Europe, done a lot of hip hop, pop, and house music.
So, what factors go into setting a standard mastering rate?
Typically, what we like to do is charge clients based on how interested we are in the projects. I think that's a bit of a secret that many engineers don't like to admit, that if we are confronted with a genre maybe we don't like to work in, or with a client that we're not particularly passionate about working with, then the rates can be a bit higher.
Is it often based on their budget as well?
Sure. I mean, if there's an aspiring artist that I really believe in, I'll give them a discount and I'll try to get to work with them. Whereas if it's an artist that's very established and that I have no interest in actually working with, I charge my standard rate.
What about big budget artists? Do mastering engineers often take advantage of that and overcharge them?
For sure. I mean, you have different deal structures for very established artists. If you go through a label, for example, then it's quite often not the artists themselves who pay for the mastering. And then you can kind of exploit the corporate structure behind the artist to get a bit more pay.
And is this quite common?
I think it's very common, yeah. Everybody in the business tries to survive and make a living, so you need to be a bit smart.
What about time-wise? Do mastering engineers tend to overstate how much time they spent on each master in order to make more money?
So usually mastering engineers only charge by the hour if it's an attended session. So if the artist comes into the studio, then they're charged by the hour. Otherwise, it's usually on a per project basis. If you've worked with the artist before or you've given their music a first listen, you usually have a good idea of how much time it's going to take. And I think it's a common misconception that a good mastering engineer spends more time on a track. The crucial part is for the engineer to know how much work do I actually need to do. If everything is good enough already, do I just not touch it?
So how much time does a standard master take?
I would say it depends if it's a single master or an album master, because if it's an album and all the tracks come from a similar environment or similar producers, it's usually much quicker to get one track done. If it's a single master, I would say it's odd if you spend more than 2 hours. I usually aim for 30 to 45 minutes per track, maybe with a short break in between. If it's an album, a full-length album, I think you should be able to get done in a day.
Wow, so you say only 2 hours?
Yeah. So 2 hours is the max I would usually give a track. If I need more time, then that's usually an indication that something went terribly wrong in the mixing or production process and I send it back. Or my approach just didn't work and I start from scratch. Yeah, I mean, it totally depends also on your priority as an artist, if we're totally frank, because if you are a high priority artist, you maybe have a deadline coming up and there's a whole group of people behind the record, then the pressure obviously on the engineer is also much higher. Whereas if you are a newcoming artist with not a big track record, then it's much easier for me as an engineer to deprioritize you and take a week until I get back to you. Unfortunately, that's how this business is run.
Wow, so independent artists really suffer when it comes to mastering.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, especially if you don't have the big budget and you don't have the big corporate established structure behind you. If you don't build a relationship with your engineer, you have a much harder time.
How much would it cost for an independent artist to get a song mastered by a professional mastering engineer?
It depends on how you define professional. There's a lot of people out there right now who are not mastering engineers, but just very versed producers, and they might charge $50 to $75.
Wow.
I think that's quite cheap considering how much equipment you would actually need as a proper mastering engineer to really hear what's going on in the track. So I don't think paying $150 per track is a bad deal for someone who really knows what they're doing.
But per track, that's quite a lot. A lot of musicians can't afford this.
Yeah, and that's usually why when you're starting out as an artist, you don't really invest that type of money into your whole production process. That's usually something that comes at a later stage or when you're really certain that a song is going to have certain traction. And what happens also quite often is that an artist releases something, then it blows up, one label picks it up, and then it goes through the mastering process again just to give it that last 10%.
So what would you recommend for up-and-coming musicians who can't afford a professional mastering engineer?
It's very important that you know your craft yourself and you're very aware of your shortcomings, and then try to find someone, if you want to work with an engineer, who complements your lack of skill. So build a relationship with someone who has worked with artists like you before, and then take advantage of all the tools that are out there that can help you get quite far in the process already.
Are there any high-quality substitutes to actually getting a professional mastering engineer?
So I'm actually quite surprised how well AI performs these days. So services like Masterchannel can do a phenomenal job getting 90% of the job done. They tend to focus more on the technical aspects, which arguably is the most important part. If you obviously want that extra mojo, it might be a bit harder to get that out of a purely technical system. But I think, yeah, just to get an idea for what mastering can do to your music and to increase your chances on a budget, I think tools like Masterchannel are the way to go.
And what do you think of it from an ethical standpoint?
Well, I think, as I said, there's plenty of people claiming to do mastering who don't really know what they're doing, and I don't think that's any more ethical than building an AI system that's actually built by people who know what they're doing. So I think that's just healthy competition.
But would you not say it's putting some mastering engineers out of jobs?
Well, as I said, if you don't know what you're doing, then maybe you should be replaced by an AI. What's quite interesting, especially with this whole AI thing going on, is that you actually have quite a lot of people claiming to do mastering on Fiverr and other platforms, and what they actually do is they just use AI under the hood and then they resell it as their own craft.
Really?
Yeah, that's what's happening. And I also know that a lot of quite established artists actually use AI for mastering, and sometimes they like that result better than what people like me can deliver.
Wow. That's very honest of you.
That's the way it's going at the moment, yeah. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to confidence. I think mastering is all about instilling confidence and making you as an artist feel like my music is ready for the world. And if you can get there through other means than hiring an engineer, then I'm all for it.